Hello, folks. Welcome to Travel Business Mentor Podcast with me, Dan Ori, brought to you by travelbusinessmentor.com and the YouTube channel, Travel Business Mentor. I think you've got the name down, right? Today, we're going to be discussing how to evaluate a business or a business opportunity. And this is going to be very broad in the techniques we're using to evaluate a business. Should you start a business? Should you go with an opportunity where there's a certain amount of pre-made business that you can connect with to access the market, or even accessing the market just by yourself? But I'm going to drill down as well within that, particularly to specify on a travel business. So we're going to focus on that as well as our example. And I'm going to talk about the sort of model that I ended up going for as well, but talk about some of the other options that might be open to you. This is connecting really nicely to the first podcast of the year, which was with Mr. Marwan Anwar. He is a travel business professional, well known in the industry, and actually from the same company as me. We went through both our journeys and we discussed how we both got into the business we were in, our previous experience in the travel industry, and then sort of the highs, the lows, and where we are today, which is a pretty good place. So do after this, go back if you haven't listened to it yet and listen to Travel Business Mentor podcast number 1. Now let's move on to our content. Wow, have I got something fantastic for you. I have got some snippets that I've taken from the internet from another podcast as our first jumping off point of how to evaluate a business. And it's with a very famous business consultant who specializes in the network marketing space, but all these can be used regardless of what your channel distribution is. Now, for those of you that don't know what network marketing is, it's essentially a direct selling model where companies will sell their product through individuals, and really you may know it as the term affiliate. So an affiliate marketing model, it could be sharing links, but more so it is normally about one-to-one person contact in some form, whether it's in person, whether it's online, however it is. So this is who the guy is. He's very, very famous, best-selling author, and we're going to delve straight into this first clip.
Let me give you 5 quick criteria to take a look at when trying to pick a company.
Perfect.
1, take a look at the product, and you need to answer 4 questions. Number 1, is there a need for this product? Number 2, does the product meet that need? Number 3, is it priced to sell? Is it competitive? And number 4, is it priced for profit? Is there enough margin for it to be worth your time? And then I would say 5th, does it align with your community? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If you say yes to that, then take a look at the company. Do they have the financial capability and the leadership necessary to be able to pivot through difficult times? Do they have any kind of track record, any kind of experience, any evidence that you can point to of success to lower your risk, feel comfortable? I'm not saying startup doesn't have benefits, but it's a myth that people at the beginning make all the money. They're normally people they get the arrows in the back. And it's a myth that only the people at the top make money. That's not true either. So take a look at the company itself. If you're comfortable that they've got enough leadership to pivot if they make mistakes. 3rd, take a look at the compensation structure. How can you make money on a direct sale? Like an affiliate type thing. And then how can you make money from team building? And if you can make money, kind of startup, midterm, big money, you feel comfortable that that's good. 4th thing to take a look at, what's the support that they provide? What can you do on your side? What will they do on their side? What's available to kind of leverage your time? And then 5th, take a look at the timing. Is this the right time for this product or this product category? Is it doesn't have to be white hot all the time. It just has to be useful. And if it matches your community, you answer. You don't have to have all 5 to have a good business, but if you have all 5, then I think you say yes and at least explore it because your risk is so low.
We're going to break down now one by one those points. Number 1, what's Mr. Worry come up with for that? Let's recap.
Is there a need for this product?
Is there a need for this product? So a really easy way to establish if there is a need is you could go onto a website called Statista. So it's spelled Statista. It's statista.com. That has got loads of different stats, lots of different data on all different industries, and it can help you evaluate that. I'm showing a recording on the screen for those watching on YouTube or of any video streaming that's just going to show how I've actually searched for this. But I'm going to walk you through it as well for those just listening on audio. Okay, so I've done my Statista search. It's come up with not only historical data going back to 2020, how I've searched, but through to projections forward for 2029. So it's got a lovely yearly breakdown, and the the figures are just phenomenal. It does them in the millions, and so we are in hundreds of millions of pounds worth of travel here. This is for the travel and tourism industry worldwide. So there's definitely a significant need for the product. And it's kind of obvious, really, for travel because there's a need, people are using the product every day. So, from the broader sense, we've been able to drill down that. Then I've drilled down a little bit further just to see, look at just one niche. And you could look at, and when we say niche, or some people say niche, but it's spelt the same way. And what that basically means is there is a certain narrowing or a specialism or a focused area in this context. And so let's say we wanted to do business travel. Let's have a play of my little video ride along and see what it's come up with. So on that same site on Statista, I have found that the global business travel spend is 933 billion US dollars. 933 billion US dollars are spent on global travel. So that's pretty impressive, right? And it's even come through with some other stats which you don't even need to know, but they're just curious just to see what this thing pulls through. So, for instance, the most expensive destination for business travelers is New York City. That's for business travelers, obviously. So you're talking business class flights and things like that. And then the most competitive city for international travel conventions is Paris, apparently. I didn't even know that before I compiled this information. So that's great info for you there. We've established that there is definitely a need, although we kind of could guess there would be. And you could do the same for any industry. But wow, I mean, to be honest with you, if I'd just seen that from business travel alone, not even counting holidays, vacations, there's 933 billion pounds worth of travel, I'd be going, yeah, that makes sense to me. There's plenty of demand. Let's now play and look at the next one that we're going to sort of drill
Number
down
2,
into.
does the product meet that need?
Does the product meet that need? There's two ways you can market a product. You can do the old engineer's way of doing it in a way where or the inventor's way, where you create a product, you discover some sort of technology and think, hey, now how do I sell this? How do I market it? I've got this thing, it does this thing. No one's asked for this thing, but I think there's a market for it, and you go out and you try and sell it. So that's one thing. The other way you can do it is you can go, there's a market out there. Let me find a product that I can sell into that market that I know is going to work. There's two ways to do it. Product driven. I've invented a product and I'm going to try and find a market for it, or market driven, where you've got a market where you are then trying to find a product for. I've given the example here of, is there a market for this? Is this something that's need, have I got a product that I can match up to it? Well, For instance, just to take the travel company I'm involved with, we've done over $1 billion in sales this year. And the figure on the screen might be slightly out. It was a sort of rejection at the time, but it's pretty much bang on. It's definitely over $1 billion. That is something that is really exciting because you think, wow, there's a company, just one company alone, doing $1 billion worth of sales in the travel industry. So that's a good thing to do as well. So look at how much money the business opportunity you're looking to invest in is turning over. Because obviously, billion might look more popular than a million. Okay, so that's just something to evaluate. Now let's go on and sort of see what else we've got to say on this.
Number 3, is it price to sell? Is it competitive?
Okay, number 3, is it price to sell? Is it competitive? So if you're dealing in a luxury market, it may not be a significant factor, but even billionaires can be price sensitive. Some people may not know the story of why Richard Branson got involved with creating Virgin Galactic, the rocket ships to space, was that he was offered by the Russian Space Agency a seat on a flight for several million to go up into space. And of course, he could afford it in a way. He was a millionaire, but he didn't really see it was great value. He actually saw the value of creating a company that could do that, but perhaps bring that price down from the multi-millions, but also create something of value to the marketplace, to exploration, to mankind as such. So even with luxury products, there can be what is a value perception. If something is overpriced and there's not a brand premium that will offset it, then it's not great value and it's not going to sell no matter what your potential market would be. So when I'm talking about brand premium, let's say that there's a certain handbag, it's got the nice little logos on and it's a genuine one, not one which is a genuine imitation, but a genuine one, then with that will have a premium over something that could be even the same quality, but it hasn't got a brand. Okay, so sometimes people will pay more to identify with a brand as well. But again, there will be a ceiling to that. When it starts getting wildly out, people are not going to see the value. There's not going to be a value proposition there. So that's another thing to mention. Now, when you're dealing with markets that are price sensitive, and particularly there might be a lot of competition, you need to have some confidence that your prices are in the right place. And there's a couple of ways that you can do that. You can have strong buying power. So you can, for instance, in the travel industry, you could join a host agency, a buying group as such. If it's got a lot of buying power, then you know that you're likely to have competitive pricing. So one way is leveraging your buying power. Your buying power could be vast, like my company, over $1 billion worth of travel sales a year. And that's not me doing $1 billion. That's over 120,000 agents doing $1 billion between them. The value there of joining in the travel industry, a host agency with a lot of sales, is you're able to then have strong buying power, and strong buying power would normally equal very competitive pricing and also good commission rates, both a competitive product for the customer and a good commission for you, the agent booking it. And this could be transferred into lots of different businesses, this model, in a sort of tenuous way. For instance, car dealerships, they're all franchises of a manufacturer. And why do people do that? Well, because they want access to a product that is desired, that they can sell at a profit on fairly level playing field of what that selling price is. One aspect to it is your buying power. The other aspect of it is that we want to make sure that what we're selling at is fairly competitive. Now, one thing I would always warn you is don't race to the bottom. Don't try to always be the cheapest. There will always be someone that is got a lower price than you, no matter what you do. Someone could sell something at a loss just to gain customers. Okay. And that is sometimes a marketing strategy for some businesses, not a very good one, because the type of customers you attract are price sensitive customers, and they are the least loyal customers. So that's an element to it. But on that that sort of price sensitivity, is it competitive? Well, for instance, some companies like myself, when we book, for instance, a hotel on our internal travel engine, that has got a price guarantee attached. So if you can find exactly like for like, apples for apples, pears for pears, and you've booked that for a customer, or the customer's self-served and booked it themselves through your website, and then they find exactly the same thing elsewhere, the company has a policy where it, out of its profits, will refund 100% of the difference and then give a 10% credit to spend with you, the agent. For me, that was great because I thought, oh, well, that's another great way. I know they're selling a competitive product. I know they're not having to do anything funny with their prices. And also for me, because I knew I'd been in the travel industry, I knew also there was certain codes of conduct because they were ABTA Travel. We're an ABTA Travel company. So that is, there's a certain way of doing it, a certain way you have to deal with your pricing and stuff like that. I knew that it was selling a competitive product. That's great. Customer wins, you win because your product is selling. Let's have a look at what else we've got.
And number 4, is it price per profit? Is there enough margin for it to be worth your time?
So we kind of covered this, is there a profit, a bit in our previous 2 answers. There's demand from the industry. There's a product that is selling because we've seen the numbers. We've seen that there's £1 billion being sold with just this one company, and we know that it's price competitive. We know that's that, but it may be selling, it may be price competitive. But is there any margin? So we then need to look at, hey, what are people earning? Now, this is an old video that I'm sharing here, but it's not too far out. I think this is like June last year, how much money had actually been earned. And it is astronomical figure. There's just too many commas in there to say that people aren't earning money. When you're interrogating stuff like this, you can always ask for examples from people that you have contact with, from the company or from the individual that you're speaking to, and say, well, look, give me an example of, for instance, if I sold this product, how much money would I make? And they will be able to provide you with real examples of that. And if they can't, I'd be a little bit worried. One thing, though, I would mention on, if when you're evaluating the travel industry, don't give them like your latest holiday booking and ask them to, can you match that price and what's the margin and stuff like that, because pricing is fluid. So as stuff sells, the prices generally go up. Okay. And so they wouldn't be able to probably price match something that had already sold. Okay. Or something that was old. But usually what they'll be able to tell you is what the live pricing is, if it's still available, what the margin is on that, what the commission rate is on that, how much you'd be actually earning. You know that there's hundreds of millions of pounds being paid out from this business that we're just analysing here. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good. So you not only have found out what the turnover is, you've found out what the commissions are that are being paid out to agents. Or at least you could look at, for instance, profit margins if you were analysing a non-commission based opportunity as well. Okay. So this is really something that's important, because turnover is vanity and profit is sanity. We're looking at those margins. How much do we actually walk away with after we've covered costs and stuff like that? How does it work in a host agency setup for travel? Well, let's dive into that just very quickly. You will maybe have seen, if you've been doing some investigation, percentage rates quoted like 70, 80%, stuff like that, commission on travel. Now, when you've got figures that high, what they're actually talking about is percentage of the total commission. So what they're saying is that there's a certain amount of commission which the agency gets paid from a supplier, the host agency gets paid from a supplier, and then you as a travel agent, independent travel agent working with that business would get a certain percentage, and it would be 70 to 80% of the total commission. How's that break down? An example, well, let's say £1,000, let's say it's a modest 10% commission, it's £100 commission total. Of that, you're 70 to 80% as the agent. You normally get if you're going with a good company, you'll get the lion's share will be yours. So you would get 70 to 80 pounds. Okay. So that's the way it would work. So it's not £100. It's not the full amount, and it's not £800. It's not 80%. It's generally whatever the percentage is. Travel inventory, like I've sort of mentioned before, is anywhere from typically sort of 4, maybe 5% through to maybe 26% as a travel agent. Depends on what the inventory is, and there's always sort of exempt elements to it. So that just gives you an example of what you can expect to make. Now, some people might say, well, making 10%, 10% total commission, then it's actually, it's going to work out at 7%. Oh, that's not very good. Well, actually, that's amazing, because a lot of products you will buy off shelves, off the internet and stuff like that are making a lot lower margin than that. But also think of the average value of what you're selling as well. So if you're selling, I could actually look up what the average value of a UK family holiday is, if that was what I was targeting. And if it's coming out at like somewhere like 2,500 or 3,500 or 4,000, then I know, well, actually, say 10% of that is very reasonable, because that's £400, right? For 4,000. And of that, I'm retaining the lion's share of that. So actually, that's very worthwhile, particularly when you work out how quickly you can book certain things. Okay. And what you find is that you get more profitable the more experience you get, because you get quicker. You get quicker. Okay, so that's a sort of element to bring in. So we've analyzed, for instance, that was just the travel business. You could do that for any type of business. Let's move on to our next point. Let's do our share again.
Fifth, does it align with your community?
It can be a very lonely place running your own business or starting your own business. And you might struggle if you're a sole individual setting up, that you haven't really got peers to connect with. You haven't got people on that same journey as you, and that can be hard. Or you may join an opportunity where there are peers, but perhaps they're not tonally in the same place as you. They might not be people that you would like to have a drink with, or discuss things with. You don't really feel a connection to them, so that's important to kind of gauge as well. Generally, you will get a vibe, particularly if you've been introduced to an opportunity by someone. You'll get a vibe with, could I work with this person? Or you might be, maybe you attend an event, a presentation, be it online or in person. You think, wow, yeah, I love this vibe. I'm gonna, yeah, what a great community. That's an important element which is often overlooked when we start a business, but so important. Now, you can join various different groups where, for instance, there's all sorts of niches. There's different mums networks, and there's the round table, which is like for men between 18 and 45. So it's like a kind of young men's organization where you might have people on a similar journey, but that obviously in itself will be a separate draw on your time, and you may still not have those connections, may not have those vibes that you want. I would say certainly definitely explore them, because they can also be a channel for your business as well. I've seen so many people in the travel industry do really well out of mums groups and stuff like that. So it's all very possible. But what I would say is that if your organization that you're joining a host agency like mine, and you can see there's an atmosphere there. There's a great vibe. You can really connect with people there. You don't have to connect with everyone, but there's certain people in there you connect with. You get it. You can see that's going to work, and you're going to get the support that you would expect. Then, hey, that's a winner, right? That's a winner. Okay, so we've looked. Is there a demand? Is there a market? Yeah, great. Have we got a product that can sell? Yes. Yeah, great. Okay, you've checked that off. You've done the research there. Is it competitive? Yes, you've done that. That's great. Is there a profit margin for you to be made? Can you make a living out of this thing? Yes, you've checked that. Great. And then, is there a community I can connect with? Will I feel supported? Yes, great. And then it's just down to what your financial risk is. And there are different ways that with a business, you can toe dip ideas. You can pre-sell the idea of something even. Just be careful with that. If you pre-sell it, you've got to deliver it, or you've got to have terms and conditions where you can refund it. But also there's a cost to refunding because there's card transactions and stuff like that. You could just also do something where you register interest. And then if you get enough interest, you know a certain percentage are actually going to buy it, and then you can produce it. But again, that will still take investment. Or it could just be that there's a very low cost to entry. And I know that's where particularly people who join our business are attracted, is that compared to many others, it's a ridiculously low cost of entry. And I always say they should put a couple of zeros on the end, but not before I bought mine. So that's what I sort of say with that, is that, sort of a very small initial investment. What's your monthly overheads? Again, very small. Great. So the actual risk is very low. And then do they offer any sort of guarantees and stuff? So for instance, for my company, it's got a 30-day money back guarantee. So you can get, all your investment back. Fantastic. It's got a 12-month profit guarantee. So wow, they're even that, I mean, and that's pretty unheard of in business, to be honest with you. You might not really find that elsewhere. Is there some sort of flexibility if you don't do as you hoped? What's your exit if it doesn't work? What's your liability going forward? Because, like, for instance, with us, you're paying in advance, and there's a little monthly fee which works out about a cup of coffee a day, and I'd like it what I call a greasy spoon coffee, a cheap coffee rather than a flash coffee. What you're then looking at is, well, I'm paying in advance for that, and so I can stop at any point I want. Evaluate your business. Is there any penalisation to leaving early, as far as, do I have to keep paying for X amount of months? My business, that was a big attractive element to it, is that the group that I'm paired with, there's, if I stop, I stop. I don't have to pay anything because you're paid in advance. You don't have to pay anything. Okay, you can just stop. But just bear in mind, if you are going for that, if you've made sales and the commissions haven't paid out, normally most companies won't then pay the commissions because they're supporting your product and you've got off. Okay, so make sure that you've got your commissions in before you did depart. But to be honest with you, we're not in this business, going into business thinking that what's our out. If that's your attitude going straight in, you perhaps need to change your mindset, because you want to go in with an entrepreneurial mindset, thinking, how do I make this a success, rather than, am I going to be a success? Okay, so that's an entrepreneurial mindset. And the only people that fail are the people that quit in business. So if you quit, you fail, right? If you don't quit, you can never fail. And you could even go, like, sort of, it wouldn't be in this format that, this type of business I'm in, because it's almost like impossible. But you could go, for instance, in other formats, for maybe you bought an expensive franchise, so you could go pretty much bankrupt. Could go bankrupt. But even if you then just stay in the game in some way, you've not actually lost, and you use that as your education. That's what your education costs you, and you move forward. I wouldn't suggest that, though, but it is the way. You will see many of the big entrepreneurs have had massive failures, but they've actually then used that knowledge during that failure, and they haven't quit at entrepreneurism, and they've carried on and been a success. And that's just one tip I would give you if you do nothing else in life. If you don't quit, you can't fail. Okay. So That's sort of wrapped up analysing a business, really. And I've kept it very broad, but I've drilled into certain areas. If you've got questions, do feel free to message us via travelbusinessmentor.com, or if you're on YouTube, whack something in the comments. And I'd love to see that. Obviously, we've kept it very broad and very basic on how to analyze a business. Obviously, I've analyzed some business in my consulting businesses and when I've been doing stuff, which has been incredibly in depth, incredibly in depth. And, that's great, but it could be that I was dealing with very large amounts of money, or I had the time to do it, or just the information wasn't readily available. The great thing is that obviously if you're looking at travel business opportunities, all the information should be very readily available to you. If you can't get the information, that's a bit of a warning signal to you. Okay, so there we go. That's how to analyze a business on the Travel Business Mentor podcast, brought to you by travelbusinessmentor.com and the YouTube channel Travel Business Mentor. I've been Dan Ori with your story. Look forward to catching you on the next podcast.